Hello and welcome to our brand new show, Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison Lagrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. An attack by Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, reportedly kills more than 200 people in the southern White Nile state. Lebanon condemns the presence of Israeli troops on its territory, calling it an occupation, after Israel says its soldiers will remain deployed in 5 locations. This despite a ceasefire agreement demanding a complete withdrawal. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds talks with Qatari Emir Al Thani. The two countries sign agreements to deepen their strategic partnership. Argentine President Javier Milei defends his endorsement of a cryptocurrency, saying he acted in good faith as the opposition seeks his impeachment, accusing him of promoting a scam. And Australia's central bank cuts interest rates for the first time in more than 4 years. This as the country struggles to contain rising inflation amid a housing crisis. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from Saudi Arabia. The capital, Riyadh, is currently the hotspot of a consequential geopolitical springboard, where the US President Donald Trump-led initiative is pressing to end the war in Ukraine by talks with Moscow without Kiev. Now, in the latest, the US negotiators, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, met the Russian delegation led by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The talks in Riyadh began without visible handshakes, as the stern-faced officials from Washington, D.C. and Moscow sat across the table. The delegation-level talks are reportedly a precursor to the bigger dialogue, which will be between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two presidents are expected to sit across the table with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as the exclusive host. Now, earlier, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the host of these negotiations, said that Riyadh is more than glad to work with the Trump administration in its efforts to end the Ukraine war.
Very glad to have you today, and as you believe, we have a lot of things to talk about, bilateral and also in the region and other areas. So we'll be more than glad to work with you and with President Trump and the administration. I believe we can work for some things for Saudi Arabia as America, and also for many countries around the world.
Missing from the table in Riyadh are America's European allies and Ukraine, who are monitoring these talks from afar. Donald Trump's push for a deal with Putin has left Ukraine and Europe scrambling. Meanwhile, as the top diplomats began talks, the Kremlin released a statement saying that its leader, Vladimir Putin, was ready to talk to Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky if necessary. The Kremlin, however, repeated its questioning of Zelensky's legitimacy as the Ukrainian president. Russia also said that Kiev has a right to join the European Union, but not the US-led military alliance NATO. But before these talks kicked off, Volodymyr Zelensky had said that Kiev will not recognize deals from the ongoing US-Russia talks. Zelensky is currently stationed in Turkey, the country that tried to broker peace between Russia and Ukraine in 2022, but failed. The Ukrainian leader is scheduled to be in Saudi Arabia tomorrow, despite his official exclusion from the current stage of peace negotiations.
Ukraine
will not take part in the US-Russia talks. Ukraine did not know anything about them. Ukraine regards any negotiations on Ukraine without Ukraine as ones that have no result. We cannot recognize any agreements about us made without us, and we will not recognize such agreements.
As the world watches Riyadh with sharp focus, the spotlight is on Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the host of these peace negotiations. Why did the US President Donald Trump and Russia's Putin choose Saudi Arabia and not any other country in Europe or elsewhere for these peace talks? The topmost reason is Saudi Arabia's strong and influential ties with both the United States and Russia. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is reportedly trusted by both Trump and Putin. At the same time, the US under Donald Trump needs a positive diplomatic momentum with Saudi Arabia to achieve its objective to normalize Saudi's diplomatic ties with Israel. Now, Riyadh's potential role in the event of a successful deal to end the Ukraine war may add to that objective. In 2022, Saudi Arabia successfully brokered deals for multiple prisoner exchanges between Russia and Ukraine. Riyadh has worked with Moscow in their OPEC Plus grouping of crude oil producers, despite Western pressure. Now, this has earned Saudi Arabia due diplomatic geopolitical goodwill in Moscow. At the same time, Riyadh's status as the leader amongst oil producers, which can turn the knob of oil prices in either direction, gives it a nearly equal geo-economic advantage with both Moscow and Washington, D.C. As top diplomats and world leaders shuttle to the Saudi capital, the world is awaiting an answer to the biggest and the most crucial question. Will the Saudi talks end the Russia-Ukraine war after almost 3 years of devastation? Now, we spoke about Saudi Arabia's diplomatic prowess. Now let's take a look at US President Donald Trump, who takes his foreign policy as seriously as he takes his round of golf. Last week, when Trump needed someone to negotiate a Russia-US prisoner swap with Putin, Trump, in his true fashion, decided to send someone who knows how to handle challenges, like that of a golf course. And now this Trump aide has been sent on another mission to secure a peace deal that could end the war between Russia and Ukraine. I am talking about this man, Steve Witkoff. Now, Witkoff is Trump's ally, golf buddy, and billionaire real estate developer. Witkoff is the U.S. envoy to the Middle East. He will now try to solve the 3-year-long war in Ukraine. Witkoff has already had 2 successes. He managed to convince Hamas to stick to the ceasefire and Israeli hostages swap. Now, this was after Hamas threatened to stop the ceasefire agreement indefinitely, only to make a U-turn in 3 days. Then Witkoff also secured the release of American prisoners being held in Russia. Clearly, he is Trump's trusted and go-to negotiator. Hear it from President Trump himself.
I think he wants to stop fighting. I see that. We spoke long and hard. Steve Witkoff was with him for a very extended period, like about 3 hours. I think he wants to stop fighting. They have a big, powerful machine. You understand that. And they defeated Hitler and they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been fighting a long time. They've done it before. And but I think he'd like to. I think he would like to stop fighting.
Witkoff's negotiations have worked so far. Russia did release an American school teacher named Mark Fogel after his visit. Now, before his visit to Moscow, he was in Tel Aviv. There he met with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and has played a key role in the Gaza ceasefire agreement. Last month, Steve Witkoff met with Israeli hostages and their families during his visit to Israel. He also met with 4 soldiers from the Israeli Defense Forces who were in Hamas's captivity.
Also have to give something back to the people who have lost their children, who are going to bury their children. They have to be able to bury them, and I heard a good dog there.
There's a few.
The dog was a great exactly. So, but we have to help those families. If we're going to bury a child, we have to bury a child to be able to go there and be with that child. I'm a member of that club that has buried a child, so it's a bad club. But at least we have to be able to spend that time with our children. So some of these people, that's just a horrible thing that they, in addition, have to deal with, including the torment of not knowing what happened to their children. So that's what.
Meanwhile, the US media has dubbed Witkoff as the man in the room. He was one of Trump's most favorite picks after his presidential win and has been described by the president himself as, quote-unquote, an unrelenting voice for peace, with the P in capital. Witkoff is now in Saudi Arabia. He is a part of the delegation that includes the top brass of American diplomacy. It includes U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. For the first time, the United States and Russia are holding face-to-face talks on the war in Ukraine. It remains to be seen what Witkoff's participation will mean for this high-octane meeting in Saudi Arabia. Will his participation make a genuine shift in diplomacy, or is he simply Trump's man who finds himself in the right place at the right time? Our next story is about Elon Musk's electric vehicle company, Tesla. It is making serious moves to tap into the Indian market. The EV giant has begun hiring for key roles, and it is reportedly scouting locations in Mumbai and capital Delhi. India is one of the world's fastest growing automobile markets, and Tesla's intent is to establish a presence here. Now, this development comes after Tesla CEO Elon Musk met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And in the recent meeting in Washington, both of them discussed Tesla plans for India. Tesla has posted openings for 13 positions in Mumbai and Delhi. It covers roles like store manager, delivery operations, and custom support specialists. The company has listed these roles on its official career pages and LinkedIn. The roles strongly hint at a showroom and delivery center, but that still remains unconfirmed. So what's changed for Tesla, and why is India a priority? For years, Musk has claimed his company should enter India soon, but import taxes and government policy handles kept it out. But with the government now easing regulations and offering incentives, Tesla has finally decided to take the leap of faith. It has long argued against India's steep import tariffs on EVs. The company says it makes the cars nearly twice as expensive. But with India now easing policies and offering incentives, the conditions seem right for Elon Musk to finally take the plunge. To attract electric vehicle manufacturers like Tesla, the Indian government has reduced import duties on electric vehicles. India's Union Budget 2025 introduced duty exemptions for EV battery components. It was aimed to boost domestic production and to make essential components more accessible. To further support the EV adoption, the government has removed the basic customs duty removal on key minerals. Now, this measure is expected to lower the cost of EV batteries. This on high-end cars priced above $40,000. The BCD has been reduced from 110% to 70%. Another big question that still remains unanswered is, will Tesla just sell cars in India or manufacture them too? The Indian government wants Tesla to build locally rather than just import vehicles. If that happens, it could mean cheaper Teslas for Indians, and by default, a massive EV push in the country. India is the third largest car market in the world, but despite that, the EV sector is still in its early stages. Last year, sales stood at just 100,000 units. However, Tesla still sees long-term potential. But will Musk stop at just selling cars, or is something bigger churning? Could it lead to a full-scale factory on Indian soil? If that happens, it could disrupt the market and change India's auto future. And in the Indian subcontinent, the suicide of a Nepalese student at an Indian private university led to a brief diplomatic strain between New Delhi and Kathmandu, according to police in eastern India's Odisha state. A 20-year-old female computer science student from Nepal died by suicide on the 16th of February due to alleged harassment by a male student. The accused male student was arrested by police on the 17th of February. He was subsequently sent to judicial custody. Police have seized the documents and electronic gadgets as evidence as they continue their investigations in the case. As the news of suicide spread in the university campus, scores of students, most of them from Nepal, gathered overnight to protest against the university's authorities. Now, the protesting students alleged potential foul play in the suicide. In response, on the morning of the 17th of February, the university ordered disciplinary action against the protesters and asked all of the Nepalese students to leave the campus immediately. The expelled students said that they were forcibly made to leave their hostels.
कारण एक लड़की सुसाइड की थी, उसके लिए हम लोग प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे और प्रोटेस्ट को मतलब ना हो प्रोटेस्ट दबाने के लिए। अब दबाने के लिए उनको लोग क्या मन सकते थे हमको नहीं पता, पर हमको जबरदस्ती निकाला गया हॉस्टल से और हॉस्टल से निकाला गया। अभी ट्रेन भी फिक्स नहीं है, ट्रेन कब आएगी कब जाएगी, हमारे पास पैसा भी नहीं है, रात से हम भूखे भी है, अभी तक खाना भी नहीं गया। हम लोग अभी पूरा बेसहारा है, हमको अभी हेल्प चाहिए, हेल्प की जरूरत है। एक ऑफिशियल नोटिस आया था हम लोग के पास कि जितने भी नेपाल के स्टूडेंट है उनको सस्पेंड किया गया, जल्द से जल्द हॉस्टल मतलब खाली करो। उसके बाद वो लोग मतलब कुछ मतलब आए कर्मचारी लोग, उनके बाद हॉस्टल में सबके रूम में ढूंढकर जो नहीं निकल रहा था जल्दी निकल, जो नहीं निकल रहा था उनको डंडा मार रहे थे।
The expulsion of Nepalese students from Indian private universities stoked prompt reactions in Kathmandu. The Nepalese Prime Minister KP Sharma said the government was working on the matter with New Delhi to deal with the situation. Later in the day, on the 17th of February, the private university in question withdrew its previous expulsion order and appealed to the Nepalese students to return to their respective hostels. Police have also filed criminal case against security personnel of the university for alleged manhandling of Nepalese students when they were protesting. Authorities even released a 24-hour helpline for students facing similar security issues. Odisha police said that they are committed to ensure the safety and security of all the students, including Nepalese students. Meanwhile, Indian Embassy in Kathmandu also urged the expelled Nepalese students to return to their university in Odisha. New Delhi called the Nepalese nationals studying in India key to the enduring people-to-people links between the two countries. India said that the government will continue to take necessary steps to ensure the well-being of the Nepalese students in the country. Now, despite swift action in the case by the Indian police, the private university's short-lived decision to expel Nepalese students seems to have done some damage. Now, earlier today, the members of the student wing of the Prime Minister Ali's alliance partner gathered to protest against the row. The students demanded fair investigation into the case of suicide, as well as the sequence of events which followed the same. India and Nepal share close people-to-people ties with open borders and shared culture. While Indian police's swift response has diluted what could have been a rancid bilateral crisis, the investigation into the suicide case of the Nepalese student, which led to this row, will be closely followed both in New Delhi and in Kathmandu. And that's all we have on the show for today. Thank you for watching. We will see you again at the same time tomorrow. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.